Okay. Yes. Okay. So thank you also to the organizers for giving me the opportunity to talk to you today. So we started this session with Heather's talk talking about like Coulomb crystals and cation reactions. Then we went to reactions between anions. Then we went to Rydberg stuff. And now we're going to go back to cations. So I am a postdoc in the Hilswood group. But today I will mostly speak to you about what I did in my PhD in the same group. So I think kind of this session has covered the motivations behind why we want to study cold ion molecule reactions. So I'm going to skip that slide. And I also think that this session covered the advantages of studying ion molecule reactions using Coulomb crystals as a cold environment. So I'm going to also skip that slide. So, okay, I'm not going to skip this one. In our group, we have at the moment 2 linear pole traps. One is at room temperature, and the other one is a cryogenic ion trap. So this one on the right is the cryogenic. This is our new ion trap. It's currently under development. So you can see here at the center, kind of, it's our ion trap, and it's embedded in 2 cryogenic stages. It can reach like 10 Kelvin or lower. So this is the project that Chloe Mosaic, the PhD student, is working on. They recently actually published a paper that you can see the details here. If you're interested in knowing more about how the ion trap is working. The only thing that I would like to mention now is that at the moment we're at the stage that we can trap our ions, eject them, and see the signal in our MCP detector. And we are looking for fluorescence to have some like fluorescent signal from calcium. From all I know, Rahul and Chloe have already had it today in the lab. But today I will focus on the older ion trap, the room temperature ion trap in our lab, which is the ion trap that I used to study reactions during my PhD. Okay, so again, we're using Coulomb crystals as our cold scaffold to study reactions, but the reactions are happening between sympathetically cooled species and other molecules. So during my PhD, I studied several charged transfer reactions between rare gas ions and ammonia neutrals. So I used both the fully hydrogenated and fully deuterated molecules. And we have the rare gas ions being sympathetically cooled, so cold transitional temperatures, and they were at the ground electronic state, whilst the ammonia for this study was introduced effusively in the chamber via high precision leak valve. So it is at 300 Kelvin, it's not a cold beam. I used 3 different rare gas species, xenon, krypton, and argon. So basically I studied the 6 reactions that are shown here. Okay, so again, more or less this has been covered by the previous speakers, but in order to extract reaction rate coefficients, which is what we want to do with our study, we need to take data in the lab, record our reactions, we compare with molecular dynamic simulations, also we use information from time of flight mass spectrometry, and like this, we have the necessary data to fit our kinetic model, which is a pseudo first order kinetic model, and then extract the reaction rate coefficients. So we did that for the 6 reactions that I showed you before, and the results are summarized in these 3 figures. Basically, in this each figure, it's for each separate rare gas ion. And okay, whatever you see as orange in this figure, it is basically related with ND3, and whatever you see as blue is NH3. So I have plotted the experimentally calculated rate coefficients. They are the diamonds in the graphs. And along the experiments, I've also plotted 2 capture theory models. The solid line is it's a classical capture theory, the average dipole orientation theory, whilst the dust line is a quantum capture theory, basically the same one that Valentina used as she spoke in the previous talk. So, okay, there are few details in these graphs, and starting by the fact that all of our experimentally calculated rate coefficients are lower than the predictions from the capture theory. So this is something that is common for all of the all of the data. Unless apart from this one that you could say that within the error bar, it can reach the capture limit. The other thing that we see is an inverse kinetic isotope effect, meaning that the deuterated reactions are proceeding faster than the hydrogenated reactions. And this is something that we see in all of the rare gas species, but the magnitude of the effect is not the same. What we saw was that the heaviest xenon ions saw the strongest inverse kinetic isotope effect, whilst for the lightest argon ions, we have the weakest effect. So as you can imagine, kind of this like inverse kinetic isotope effect, also the disagreement with the capture theories came kind of as a surprise to us. So what did we do? We turned to our collaborators to run theory for us. And this slide kind of summarizes all the theory. So our collaborators did ab initio calculations to construct the potential energy surfaces for the system. And very briefly, what we saw is that there is no energetically accessible curve crossing between the products and the reactants, the surfaces. And also, we saw that there is a weak and broad non-adiabatic coupling between the surfaces, but we noticed that the position of this non-adiabatic coupling is more favorable for the argon reaction system. And this is important for the proposed explanation for what we see. So we came up with an explanation of the effects that we see that are summarized, that are detailed in this paper here. I will try to quickly go through it, but I don't think I have time to go too much into the details of the explanation. More or less what we think is happening is that we start with a non-capture limited process for our reactions. Our rate coefficients are lower than the capture predictions. And then because of these non-capture limited processes, we have a competition between product formation and dissociation back to reactants. So we think that the properties of the complex play a role in the observation of this inverse kinetic isotope effect. And then, given the favorable position of the non-adiabatic coupling of the argon reaction system, we think that that is what leads to the difference in the magnitude in this effect. So after having done those reactions, we kind of ask ourselves, okay, is it something that we expect to see in many reaction systems? For example, Heather before she mentioned that they suspect that they might be seeing an inverse kinetic isotope effect in some of their systems. So what we did was, okay, we have changed the rare gas species. We have done 3 different ions, so it's time to go to a different molecule. So we chose water. And we chose water because from a capture theory perspective, it's a similar molecule to ammonia. It has a similar dipole moment and a similar polarizability. So we said, okay, let's try this molecule. Again, we use the fully hydrogenated and fully deuterated molecule. And the results are summarized here. In fact, we didn't see the same behavior. In this case, the experimentally calculated rate coefficients were in good agreement with the capture theory. And also, we didn't see any inverse kinetic isotope effect. We had both rates for the deuterated and hydrogenated molecule being very similar. Again, we asked our collaborators to help us with theory, and what we saw is that in this case, there is indeed a curve crossing in between the reactant and product potential energy surfaces. So to kind of summarize all of this, what we have is that some reactions between rare gas ions and polar molecules, ammonia and water, that don't show the same behavior. In one case, we saw an unexpected inverse kinetic isotope effect. We saw disagreement with capture theories and no curve crossing in the potential energy surfaces, whilst in the other case, the water reactions, we have good agreement with theories, no kinetic isotope effects, and an identified curve crossing. So I think it's actually an interesting study, but at the moment we don't know why there is a difference between water and ammonia. So what we decided is to kind of go a step farther and dig a bit deeper in the ammonia reactions. So what we currently do is repeat the reactions with the xenon ions and the deuterated and hydrogenated ammonia molecules, but this time, instead of using a thermal ammonia beam, we're using a cold beam. What we did, we took our ion drop and we attached to the ion drop a pulse valve and a skimmer. And basically, we're going to study the same reaction with a rotationally cold beam of ammonia. And also, we want to do it to have like a tunable velocity by changing the carrier gas of our beam. At the moment, we are at the stage that we are characterizing our beam. We're trying to measure the number density. It has been mentioned a few times already today that is a bit challenging to measure the number density of a beam. We are trying to understand the exact rotational distribution of our beam. We have taken some reactions in the lab, and we want to take more, and we are analyzing the things that we have already. Unfortunately, I have no rate coefficients to share with you today because we have very, very preliminary results, but I hope to have something very soon. And with that, I would like to thank my group, the Hazelwood group. These are all the people that are here. The people who work with me at the moment at the project are Jay here in the back and Lorenzo here. And here is this white thing is actually the first Coulomb crystal we had in our new lab in Liverpool. And to finish, I would like to share something that Brianna asked me to. We have postdoc position open in our group. So if anyone is interested, feel free to come to me to ask for more details or drop an email to Brianna. Thank you.
So thank you very much, Andriana. Questions? Sadik and then Johannes.
Thanks. Yeah, hi, great talk. If you go to the last slide, yeah. So are you doing also NDH2 plus H2 and ND2H?
We haven't tried.
Because that gives you a much more parameterization.
Yes, so we haven't tried because I guess we could try, but in the first instance of our reactions, we didn't because they are going to go to, they will not stay at the same percentage. They will interconvert. So we didn't try. We could because we have a time of flight like mass spectrometry. So we could in the future think about doing also that.
Yeah, thanks. Great talk. So all your experimental rates always seem to be smaller than the calculated leisure rates, and the one where you said you have agreement of the krypton with water, there it was an agreement with the average dipole model, but not with the what I would assume more precise adiabatic capture model, which was like still a factor of 2 higher. So, I mean, why do we have an explanation why the adiabatic capture model in this case also does not seem to work?
So if I go back to this figure, actually, you might notice, but our temperature is not, our collision energy, call it a bit more correctly, is not that low. We are around 200 or 250 Kelvin. So what we think is actually the ADO model, because the classical model might be better at describing this system.
Further questions? Okay. Yeah, Johannes.
I was just wondering if you said, and others said, as you said, others said too, it's so hard to calibrate the beam density, but your error bars are actually not bad at all. There's a factor of so it's less than a factor of 2. So is it really that? Is that realistic then, or how much more do you want to get down with the beam density?
So these data are with the effusive beam. So it was sort of easier to have the density. We actually used, like Heather went into this discussion before, we used the pressure gauge. So this was the easy part within the uncertainties that it has for the number density. The difficult part that we'll have, I think, maybe larger uncertainties is the one with the molecular beam, that we cannot use the pressure gauge to estimate our number density.
Okay, I see no further questions. Then let's thank Andriana and indeed all the speakers of the session again.